final shot, even the final still, as David Gordon Green says, those tableaus at the end of the film, of course, that is an echo and a tribute to how the original 78 ends. But as David Gordon Green says at the end of his commentary, where once there was breeding and continuation during those original tableaus, now there is silence. But with a curious mask sitting out right there on the table in the center of the screen in the very last shot of the film. And then, of course, a familiar song, "Don't Fear the Reaper," which almost made me tear up and get emotional when that song came on in the theater first viewing. I love it. Perfect choice for the ending. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, well, there's so little Michael in it," And David Gordon Green, again, in that commentary track, he fully acknowledges that that's the biggest swing of the movie, even bigger than having the Corey character itself. The biggest risk of the whole movie was having such a long time without Michael in it. So they knew that. But if you add up his total minutes that he's on the screen, I think it's still going to be pretty comparable to the total minutes he's on screen in the original 78 film, honestly. I don't think he's on the screen that much more in that one. And after you see him in the beginning, you don't see him, fully. You don't see that mask fully ever, really, like for more than a half a second until he gets on the phone after killing Linda and has kind of that extended scene with Laurie on the phone, and that's when the camera lingers for the first time in that film, and you really can look at the mask. Anyway, I forgot why I started that, but anyway, the big risk of keeping Michael out of it, but and the book makes this clear too about how Michael is such a presence already, and a lot of that is with the DJ Willie the Kid, who is very much, and Green acknowledges this, but yeah, he's absolutely the Adrian Barbeau, Stevie Wayne DJ character from John Carpenter's The Fog. In fact, David Gordon Green sees this film, and he wanted this film to be very reflective of Carpenter's full body of work, more than just the original Halloween. And he wanted this film to be, to Carpenter, what he describes how Stranger Things is to Spielberg, and really wears that Spielbergian influence, on its shoulder right out front. That's what they wanted to do here. Hence the Fog references with the DJ. Obviously the Christine references, which were kind of, mentioned in very early interviews, very early on about this interview. And you can see that reflected in a couple of different ways, whether it's, seeing Michael as Christine, which I think in a way it is, the mask itself as the car in a way, it kind of works that. And then just more thematically as opposed to being exact. And then even some literal stuff, like with the junkyard and stuff like that. That ties in as well. But being a massive Carpenter fan, I love all of that. A few other things that Green mentioned in that commentary track that I liked. The upbeat music that is playing in the beginning. And again, there's a whole lot more of Willie the Kid in the novelization, a whole lot more about what he's talking about. In fact, I just read a section where Willie the Kid is floating this theory and really kind of giving voice to one of the conspiracy theories around Haddonfield and probably around other parts of the country, that there's a cult operating down in the hell caves, they call them, underground of Haddonfield, a cult of Samhain. I know it's pronounced Samhain, a cult of Samhain, and they worship Michael Myers or some dark entity, the shape, and sometimes it's the boogeyman that actually goes out, and sometimes it's somebody else that is like some kind of sacrifice, and Willie the Kid is giving voice to that throughout the years of him being there, and that's a constant thing in everybody's ear. And then like Joan tells Laurie in the theatrical cut, at one point, when her boogeyman disappeared for all intents and purposes out of the public eye anyway, they had to find a new one, and so a lot of the family people who were fearing the return of the boogeyman placed that fear Corey, even though he was, found not guilty in the trial. Let me just hit on a couple other quick points about the commentary track that I did make note of, and that I wanted to make sure that we've talked about, just in case you haven't read the 4K review. Um, the opening pumpkins. I think Christopher is probably clocked out and gone to bed, but I would love to hear about the creation of the opening pumpkins this time, because what David explains is, they all symbolize different things. The last time it was one pumpkin for every film up to that point, 12 of them. Well, this time with, it being a pumpkin and then another one coming up from inside of it and it opening up and a new one coming out. It's basically symbolizing what is evolving in Haddonfield and what Haddonfield is evolving into. And so if you watch, the pumpkins get a little more angry, a little more evil looking as it goes and goes and goes until the last one. It's an uncarved pumpkin, and that's the one that just rips open kind of H281 style. And it's pumpkin guts, but it's also bloody and kind of human guts at the same time, in a twisted mix of both, which I thought is really effective. Another interesting tidbit that I learned in the commentary track that I didn't pick up on, you see that montage in the opening of the film during Laurie's narration, and you see a woman hanging outside of a house. And she's got some devil horns that kind of remind us maybe of Oscar and his tragic fence death. Well, that is, in fact, Oscar's mom, played by the same actress who played his mom in Halloween Kills. You remember you saw her in the hospital scene in Halloween Kills? Well, in the time since, at some point over those 4 years since, she took her own life by hanging herself while wearing Oscar's devil costume. Of course, that devil costume, an Easter egg in itself to Halloween 5 and our friend Tamara Glenn and her character Samantha's iconic sexy devil costume. It was echoed again in this most recent film. Nurse Deb rocked her own version of a sexy devil costume this time. So, a lot of history with the devil costume in this franchise, to say the least. Oh, another interesting thing. Hugo Garza, producer, says he makes the comment that in his mind, in Haddonfield, people in Haddonfield say to your face what people in most other towns would say on social media. So that's kind of the scene when Laurie's coming out of the supermarket, and our friend Diva Tyler is revealed to still be living, but she can't talk anymore, and her sister is there, really, pissed at Laurie, and kind of rains on her parade and ruins her nice day. She was flirting with Frank inside, and I love that scene. I think it's really powerful and really awesome to see our friend Diva back in it again, just like Julian, one of our friends who amazingly appeared and survived all three of these films. Pretty awesome. But that's not originally what it was going to be. Originally, that was supposed to be Sheriff Barker, played by Omar J. Dorsey. That was supposed to be Sheriff Barker there in the wheelchair, who is now just so mentally messed up since the events of the last two movies that he's confined to a wheelchair, and that would have been his wife kind of chastising Laurie there. He was busy shooting something else at the time they were shooting that scene, so they made some changes and got Diva back in there. Of course, he does reprise the role of Sheriff Barker later on in the film during the procession. So I found that pretty interesting as well, because that was a surprise to me to see her and to see Julian back in it. But I really love those touches of bringing them back in. That hit me almost as much as seeing when it pans up from Karen's handprint saying "I'll take care of you, mommy," and then it pans up and you see the shot of high school Laurie with Linda and Annie. Yeah, good emotional punch right there. Oh, and Allison and Corey's dance that they do at the Halloween party, that is actually, if you watch it, their dance that they're doing, according to the commentary, it's very much choreographed by Paul to be a metaphor for their entire story throughout this movie, leading right up to and including ending their tragic ending with Allison standing over Corey. Watch the dance scene again. It's all there. It's pretty wild. Of course, a lot of you have picked up on this already, but it is acknowledged in that commentary that Allison leading Corey up the stairs, have sex in her upstairs bedroom in Lori's house as Lori silently, somewhat creepily watches on, is absolutely an homage to Judith leading her boyfriend Steve up the stairs of the Myers house to have sex, as young Michael, age 6, silently looks on as well, before going in there and killing her. It's also really interesting, I found. Pay attention to Corey's falls throughout the movie. Um, Hugo Garza explains in the commentary track that you could actually track the evolution of Corey's character through 4 falls from high places while he's around throughout the movie. The first one, of course, being Jeremy Allen's tragic fall to his death in the beginning. It's an accidental fall. Corey is there, and of course, it changes him forever. The next one is when the bullies are bullying him at the missing girl billboard on the bridge, and he falls from there. Again, kind of an accidental fall, but this one changes him even further because now he stumbles into the cave. Well, he doesn't stumble into the cave, but now he is dragged into the cave and he meets the boogeyman and they have their eye-to-eye moment. And yeah, now he's changed forever. The next fall, now he's changed forever. He's a killer. He's a lover. He is living life to the fullest, right? This is a whole new Corey, right? Whole new Corey, and he's at his favorite kind of thinking spot, favorite kind of inspiration spot on the roof of the radio station. Yes, very ironic. That's his favorite spot, but yet he hates the DJ. It's spelled out in the book that he really hates DJ because DJ talks a lot of shit about him as much as he does about Michael Myers, and so he really doesn't like him. But they all listen to him, even though they hate him. Ironic there, but only radio station that comes in Haddonfield. I'm guessing probably don't have good Wi-Fi, so maybe not good Spotify there in Haddonfield. I'm guessing maybe makes sense to me. In any case, that's the third fall where it's kind of a on purpose fall, kind of a carefree, not really a jump, kind of a carefree fall off. And at this point, yeah, he's a totally different person than he was in the beginning when he shows up at the Allen's house to babysit. He's totally different. He's carefree. He's like, again, he's living life in a certain respect to its fullest. He's a killer and a lover. He is like on the height of Corey-dom right now. Okay, and then of course the last fall, the final fall, the fourth fall at Lori's house after he comes in doing his Corey Myers thing, and she shoots him. He falls off the stairs, and that's the last fall. So I found that very interesting. Again, something I did not pick up on either of the first 2 viewings. The fact that they're 4 falls, pretty evenly spaced out throughout the film, pretty marking each act almost, each stage in story each stage in Corey's story. Yeah, in the story Corey. You know what I mean. Oh yeah, and this I found fascinating too. The call when Corey calls Allison late in the movie, and he's telling her we have to go, we have to leave town, and I think she says we can't go now, but meet at the diner or something, and then he doesn't show up, and it's all part of the tragedy. Well, David Gordon Green um, and Hugo Garza, they acknowledge in the commentary track that that particular call, the sound of Corey's voice coming through on the call to make it extra kind of disturbing and scary, the inspiration was Black Christmas, the original Bob Clark Black Christmas. The 1974 horror classic, greatest Christmas horror movie ever. Direct influence to John Carpenter's Halloween, one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Just one of the greatest movies ever made, period. And that Killer's Calls, that is the champion of creepy killer phone calls of all time. And so I found that fascinating. That that movie, such a piece of genre history, holiday genre history, holiday genre history that so much influenced the style and look and just everything about Halloween itself, the original '78. Um, that influence comes back in here in such a subtle but you know very interesting and fitting way in a way. That they wanted him to sound kind of like that killer calling Allison saying we have to go, we have to go, we have to go. So that's just a little bit of what I found to be interesting in the commentary track on my rewatch.